In this video, I'm going to explain why the introduction of free energy technology will spark a spiritual revolution and heal our planet. On March 30th, 2018, Tom DeLonge shared a Facebook and Instagram post referencing genius scientist Hal Puthoff, who is also a member of To the Stars Academy. Here's what he had to say. To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science has formally entered into negotiations with Earth Tech Advanced Propulsion Laboratory to partner, acquire, and control the rights to Dr. Hal Puthoff's beamed energy propulsion, launch of satellites using high-powered lasers, and his breakthrough space-time metric engineering. Dr. Puthoff has been the senior physicist with the ATIP program for 15 years under the Department of Defense and developed the physics and mathematics to bend space-time, also sometimes referred to as anti-gravity. This post, coupled with an old Hal Puthoff interview that I recently came across, got me wondering if a big mission of To the Stars Academy is to introduce free energy technology into our current world economy. The interview I'm referencing took place in 2005 between Hal Puthoff and Alan Steinfeld. It's a truly amazing interview. The link is in the description. I can't recommend it enough. In this interview, Hal Puthoff said the following. Recently, I was on a DoD panel January of this year where we were tasked with looking at how do we accelerate movement from a fossil fuel economy to a hydrogen economy. So I got to spend one afternoon presenting what we call the wild card scenario, and that is, suppose tomorrow we suddenly discovered zero-point energy as a source, so we had a sort of war game. Well, how would we handle this? What would we do? How would we announce it? Who would be in charge? Would this be primarily government-driven? Would this be primarily corporate-driven? Hal went on to explain that they had a magnificent computer integration system in which they plugged in all of this possibilities, and the computer system came up with the best path to move forward with the discovery of free energy and its implementation into the world economy. If my supposition is true, that To the Stars Academy was formulated not only to bring disclosure into the world, but also to introduce free energy technology, this would explain why Steve Justice, the former head of the advanced systems at Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, would say the following.
And one of the things I want to do is figure out what those technologies are in this observed vehicle, and I want to build that.
This would also explain why the former head of ATIP, Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, would say the following in reference to figuring out how advanced alien technology works.
I'll tell you too, I think in the defense of the program, we actually have some very interesting, I believe, and some very nuanced observations that are now for the first time allowing us to have a better collective understanding of just how it works.
Now, of course, what Luis Elizondo is referencing when he says how it works is UFOs. Frankly, I'm skeptical that breakthroughs that occurred during the ATIP program on how these UFOs work is anything new. It's pretty obvious that pockets within the US government have been studying the UFO phenomenon since the 40s. However, the statement by Luis Elizondo may be for the purpose of acclimating the US and world public for revelations that are yet to come. I am quite convinced that To the Stars Academy is not coming out of some sort of vacuum, but instead is a government-implemented program to get the ball rolling on bringing disclosure to the world. I also believe that you simply cannot have disclosure without the advent of free energy technology. The To the Stars Academy's intention to build an anti-gravitic craft based on alien technology is a well-calculated maneuver to gradually introduce zero-point energy technology into our economy. When you have Hal Puthoff, who is an absolute physics genius, and Steve Justice, who was the #2 at Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, the former head of the advanced systems, saying you can build one of these crafts, you probably should listen very carefully and closely to what they're saying. If you recall the 2005 Hal Puthoff quote that I shared earlier on in this video, he talked about the wild card scenario where free energy technology was finally discovered and the DoD computers were wargaming the various ways they could handle that situation and bring it out into the public. One aspect the supercomputer at DoD wargamed was whether it would be better to bring this technology out through the government or through a corporate entity. The reality is that To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science is a public benefit corporation, and so you really have to wonder if what is going on now with To the Stars Academy is a manifestation of what Hal Puthoff was talking about in 2005 when DoD supercomputers were trying to figure out the very best way to bring this new technology, or new technology in terms of going open and public with it, into our world. Now, how long the US government has had the capability to tap into the zero-point energy field, no one knows for sure. Many ufologists have very strong opinions on this, but I've yet to see anything that can be nailed down as proof as to when the United States finally learned how to tap into the zero-point energy field. Here is a beautiful explanation by Inverse.com on exactly what is zero-point energy. Zero-point energy, also known as ground state energy, could be the greatest gift the quantum world could ever give us. It's a byproduct of the fact that subatomic particles don't really behave like single particles, but like waves constantly flitting between different energy states. This means even the seemingly empty vacuum of space is actually a roiling sea of virtual particles fluctuating in and out of existence, and all of those fluctuations require energy. The first way free energy will spark a spiritual revolution on our planet is it will even the playing field among the nations. For example, some of the poorest places in our world, such as South America and Africa, will be built up using free energy, and they will have an infrastructure that materializes that will look everything like Europe, North America, some places in Asia, and so forth. To give you an idea of how inefficient fossil fuel is on our planet, 1 in 3 human beings on this planet don't have plumbing. 1 in 4 don't have electricity, which equates to 1.6 billion people. More than 750 million people lack adequate access to healthy drinking water. And one of the great things about free energy is that it will have so much power behind it that we will be able to desalinate oceans as much as necessary, so clean and healthy drinking water will be available to every human being on this planet. One of the more beautiful things about building up the poor regions of our world through free energy is it's not going to hurt anybody to do so. Free energy by definition is free. So when other nations that don't have adequate infrastructure start harnessing that energy to build up their infrastructure, it's taking zero money out of the pockets of other nations. Nobody will need to drill oil on behalf of the poorer nations and ship it to them to help them out. Every little square inch around them will be all they need to have abundance. Okay, but what does all this have to do with the spiritual revolution that you speak of? I think the very act of sharing this technology and watching it spread out among the nations will build a sense of interconnectivity among one human to the next. A day won't go by where we're not reading in the newspaper or watching the news or watching YouTube and seeing how this technology is spreading upon the world and how it's changing people's lives, villages' lives, nations' lives. On the news, we will see pictures of villages that were once without plumbing and without electricity, but now have first-rate plumbing, first-rate electricity, and the best internet you could possibly imagine. We will see images of shanty towns that have transformed into modern cities and towns thanks to free energy technology. The helping one another and cooperating in this evolution that is on one level technological and on another level spiritual will raise the consciousness of all people. Have you ever helped your fellow human being out in one capacity or another and felt a feeling of happiness or fulfillment or joy from doing so? Well, that's a psychological fact. When you help another person, you feel better about yourself. Now that's a micro level, but consider the macro level of everyone helping one another in this new era of technology in raising up every nation, whether it's a rich nation or a poor nation, we're all going to benefit. We're all going to go to the next level of quality of life when we start to implement this new technology that makes power cheap. Beyond that, one of the greatest motivations for war is going to begin to dismantle. Let's face it, many wars are started for the sake of resources, whether that's oil or minerals or what have you, because that's what's so valuable in our world economy. But once free energy enters the picture, oil is not going to mean anything. Oil is just going to be some black liquid that smells and no one wants on their property. One of the most amazing things about the interview with Hal Puthoff and Alan Steinfeld is that Hal Puthoff makes the point that many of these supernatural powers that some human beings have had throughout our history is related to the zero-point energy field. Hal Puthoff took it upon himself to research human levitation in the instances that have been recorded throughout history. And one thing he noticed is that there was a physicist who recognized descriptions of it occurring that sort of described general relativistic phenomenon, such as the person may rise vertically and then swing horizontally, and their hair and dress would hang down parallel to the body as if they were in some kind of space warp. And in the literature of levitation, if someone would get too close to the individual that was levitating, they would get caught up into it and they would start levitating as well, which indicates some sort of space warp. So Hal Puthoff explains that there are these subtle details of the accounts of levitation that the people at the time would not know is in concert with modern day understanding of physics. Hal Puthoff imagines that people that levitated were affecting the space-time continuum, and this probably means they cohered the vacuum fluctuation energy, or as it's otherwise known, zero-point energy. What's so fascinating to me about the proposition that humans throughout our history that have had special abilities to levitate or engage in telekinesis, that they were somehow cohering zero-point energy through their mental cognition, is that the power source of the future is going to have an inherent paranormal quality to it, because even the human mind is capable of tapping into it in special circumstances. In the interview, Hal Puthoff talks about how some have theorized that all of reality is made of one singular substance, kind of like a bathtub filled with water. Sure, there's waves going back and forth. There's a drain where the water will turn into a vortex as it goes down the drain, but ultimately those different manifestations are all water and nothing but water. Puthoff explains that he has a subjective leaning to the proposition that the entire universe is one substance, yet he knows that he can't say that for sure because there's no proof of it. And this got me wondering that when the knowledge of how to tap into the zero-point energy field is being disseminated upon the world, we will have a much greater understanding of our universe, and this knowledge could spark some very esoteric areas within physics that scientists could take a closer look at, which may lead to the scientific community wondering in a very sincere way whether or not the universe itself is conscious and all consisting of a singular substance, so to speak. And if in a post-free energy world, the dominating assessment, even among mainstream scientists, is that the universe is conscious and is all one substance, just imagine the impact such an understanding will have on our world. According to Wikipedia, there is widespread belief in the reality of Qi. It's a non-scientific, unverified concept. Qi is vital energy, whose flow must be balanced for health. Qi has never been directly observed and is unrelated to the concept of energy used in science. Vital energy is itself an abandoned scientific notion. Here's another quote from Wikipedia. Fairly early on, some Chinese thinkers began to believe there were different fractions of qi. The coarsest and heaviest fractions formed solids, lighter fractions formed liquids, and the most ethereal fractions were the life breath that animated living beings. Yuan qi is a notion of innate or prenatal qi, which is distinguished from acquired qi that a person may develop over their lifetime. Perhaps zero-point energy found throughout every quadrant of the universe has a counterpart that is also found throughout every quadrant of the universe, known as qi. Perhaps there is an energy in the universe flowing throughout the universe that can be tapped into in the same way that we can tap into the zero-point energy field, which is the foundation and essence of what heals a human or any biological entity of imbalance and disease. Perhaps this understanding will blossom in a post-free energy world because every area of science that was once deemed taboo will be open to investigation and research. Perhaps just as energy has become essentially free, so will healthcare, because we will develop the ability to tap into that universal healing life force that is historically known as qi to heal people for almost nothing. Perhaps in a post-free energy world, we will develop machines that can actually take that energy and concentrate it into biological entities such as humans to heal them of any disease that they might have. I believe the sentiment by Arthur C. Clarke will prove true as we move into the future. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. I look forward to seeing you in a post-free energy world as well as a post-disclosure world. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to subscribe because there's going to be more content just like this. And if you'd like to support this channel, you can support me on Patreon, or you can buy a t-shirt at my shop, disclosurelife.com, or you can just go in the description below and click the link. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.